when I used to go on walks when I was younger. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Magnolia, Seattle area, it's a typical kind of suburb, mostly people who are retired or starting families. But when I used to go on walks, I remember people would acknowledge you. They would smile at you, they'd wave at you, they'd try to start conversation with you even. And before I had moved from that neighborhood, and my parents had moved as well, I remember when I would go on walks, this was about 5 or so years ago, perhaps even a little bit less than that. But people would look at you like you're crazy, like you're from another planet, if you try to acknowledge them, try to start conversation with them. And I remember one of the last days I had lived there, there was this woman probably in her 40s or 50s. And I had looked at her and kind of nodded my head at her, just acknowledge her, again, out of respect, out of kindness, out of decency. And she gave me one of the weirdest looks that I could think of. It's hard to even explain, but almost looking at me like I was from another planet. Looking at me like I was crazy for just wanting to show some respect. A lot of the other people not acknowledging you at all. And we've come to a point where people are more concerned with what's going on their phone in front of them. You see people walking nowadays, they're not even looking ahead. This social media really is antisocial as far as I'm concerned, because it incentivizes people to not interact with one another. Like even the other day, I was out at a restaurant. I was waiting in line. I assumed a gentleman in front of me was in line, and it was his turn up, and he was just glued on his phone. I'd asked him like, "Hey, are you in line?" Literally no response, like a zombie looking down on his phone. So I just went ahead. I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, are people like even aware of what's going on around them? Are they even aware of what is going on around them? And I think a lot of people that are even on their phones, I don't think they're doing anything of relevancy or importance. I think it's almost a form of habit. It's like a way of just dealing with boredom, where they're just looking at their screen, whether it's scrolling some kind of article or something on social media. I guarantee you it's nothing of importance. It's just out of habit. And it's just, I've never seen a time where people are so fake and so fickle and hard to depend on and lack respect for one another. Really lack any sort of decency or care. Like even the night before, which again, I don't wish anything bad on this friend. I don't wish anything bad on anyone. I have no animosity towards him. But I was supposed to go to the gym with a friend, and he had called me earlier in the day saying, "Hey, let's go to the gym this time." I said, "Sounds good, I'll be there." I had showed up, didn't see him, tried to call him, went to voicemail, tried to call him about 10 minutes later, went to voicemail. Went ahead and just did my workout. He messages me the following morning, apologizing, which again, I appreciate him apologizing. He acknowledged that he was in the wrong. But my point being is that no heads up, no care for my time or what I had going on that day, because again, I would have gone to a different gym. I would have started my workout a lot earlier. I would have planned my day differently had I known that was going to happen. But the reason I mention this is because this is not just a one-off, one-time occurrence. This is a very common thing now. The ghosting, the flaking is something I just see all the time. The lack of caring for one another. Like even I was at a gas station a few nights ago. I'm over there paying. Say thank you. The guy doesn't say anything to me. Looks down on his phone. No thank you. No have a good night. No you're welcome. Nothing. And what's so sad too is I walked out of that store not even angry, which is nothing to get angry about, but sadly not surprised, because this is something where it's become such a normal occurrence, unfortunately, that it doesn't surprise me anymore. The dismissiveness, the just the lack of care in general, the complete lack of care. And I even remember when I was younger, right? To kind of touch something a little bit differently, but it applies to what the bigger point of this video. When you had a disagreement with someone, or I'll put it this way, when you had a beef with someone or a problem with someone, people would fight. Now, again, I'm not condoning fighting. I think fighting is not a good thing. I think street fighting in general is a bad idea. But when I was in school, people had a beef. They would fight, but even after the fight, they'd be cool after. They'd shake hands. They'd go have a pop together. They'd be cool after. No one would be holding grudges. No one would be angry. No one would be trying to backstab and swindle and do this kind of stuff. But nowadays, like, people have an issue. They won't fight. They're going to try to act like they're cool with you. And the whole time they're going to be plotting and scheming. That's number one, that's emasculating behavior. Number two, I'd rather have someone, call me crazy for this, but I'd rather have someone fight with me and lose the fight and have that be it, rather than have them try to be cool with me, be around me, or act like it's not a big deal, but the whole time be trying to plot against you. Because that's what I see a lot of the time. That's really what I see a lot of time. Like even when I used to work produce at QFC, and if you guys aren't familiar with QFC, is essentially Kroger, just your kind of big chain grocery store. One of the department managers, assistant department managers, I believe it was, for the produce department, I heard he was saying something along the lines of the way I was doing work wasn't good, just kind of smack talk, right? And I had showed up because I heard about that to talk to him about it, not even in a confrontational way, but just be like, hey, dude, like, what am I doing wrong? You know, if you have a problem with the way I'm working, please, like, tell me. You don't need to tell other people. And he goes and complains to the store manager like I'm out to try to, like, hurt him or something, or I'm out to get him. And I'm thinking to myself, a real man would have that kind of conversation with you. They wouldn't be doing all these sneaky kind of backstabbing kind of behavior. You know, the masculine behavior, as far as I'm concerned, is in the toilet, because that's the opposite of masculine. That's the opposite of being a man. You know, you should, if you have a disagreement with someone, like I said, people when I was in high school, I don't condone it. They used to fight about stuff. You know, grown adults should talk out. That's really, again, the difference between high school and being an adult is in high school, people would fight over it. Adults should be able to talk it out and have those kind of conversations, but a lot of people don't act like adults. And it's crazy too, because these are people who are in their 30s, 40s. You see that too. Like a lot of people, you'd think they get out of that high school mindset, but they don't. You know, people still thinking that your self-worth is based off of your social circle and how many friends you have. And guys, I don't know about you, but I've come to the point where friends are a waste of time. And hear me out on this, because I think it's good to have people around you, but people that are loyal, people that have honor, people that have brotherhood, people that I could look at as family. I don't really want friends, to be completely honest with you, because that friends to me almost is like an escapism. It's almost like a habit, you know, something to take yourself off of your daily stressors, which in many cases it can be a bad habit, because those kind of friends might not be the people that have your best interests. Like I've seen a lot of friends, so-called, they'll be the first people to stab you in the back, the last people to be there for you, you know, the last people to be supportive of your dreams and goals. Really, that's why I've ghosted or isolated myself from a lot of people. That's why I've distanced myself and cut off a lot of people. That's really necessary, especially as you grow up as an adult. You realize a lot of the people when you were younger really aren't people that you're in line with anymore. And something I get so sick of too is, speaking of the kind of validation stuff, people having others around them, is people basing people basing their interactions off of money, social media followers, this kind of stuff, this kind of superficial stuff. Like even I was at the Mercedes dealership, I remember, with a friend of mine, with no intentions of buying a car, but we were into cars back then. And the salesperson was so rude and so condescending, maybe because he saw me pull up in just a generic SUV, whatever it might have been. I remember we were looking at it. It was a C43 AMG, which is a cool car, but the way he talked was essentially like, this car is too good for you. This car is out of your price range. This is not like what you're driving, which is so funny because I think to myself, number one, most people that really have money, they don't need status symbols like that. You know, I've had people in my life, I've known distant relatives and stuff like that who have a lot of money. None of them are flaunting like that. None of them are driving flashy cars. None of them are wearing flashy clothing. A lot of the time that's for a status symbol. And what I've come to find out is, like I said, a lot of the people that have that kind of stuff are broke. They're broke, which is really kind of the irony in it. But besides the point, the lack of respect. Like, I don't care what kind of car someone drives. I don't care how many social media followers someone has. I don't care what kind of watch they have on. I care about the person. I care about the way they treat people. I care about their character. That's what I'm going to base my interaction with someone off of. You know, like, I don't care if you're an Uber Eats driver. I don't care if you're a McDonald's employee. I don't care. If you have respect, if you have loyalty, if you have honor, cool, we'll get along. But I see way too much of the superficial stuff. I see way too much people basing their interactions, the way they treat people, off of how much money they're worth or whatever they want to assume. Remember, it was around, I think it was in December when the malls are very busy. But I was at the Burberry store, and I think sometimes when there's a lot of high volume in the shopping malls, they only allow a certain amount of people in the store at once. They have the gates and stuff or I don't know what it's called, but it's actually someone at the front who lets a certain amount of people in. And there was this couple that walked in ahead of me, and the woman closes it on me, gives me a very kind of nasty look, almost like I don't belong there. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this is a joke. This has gone way too far. The way people treat one another, the way people base their interactions off money has just gone way too far. Number one, like I said, same thing with the Mercedes thing. Most people that wear Burberry or these kinds of feel the need to show off and have materialistic stuff. They don't have money. They don't. The richest people I've known, none of them wear stuff like that. None of them flaunt like that. Because again, it's a status symbol. But you have people thinking that they're better than others because they have that kind of stuff. Again, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing to me. And, I could even touch on this, but a lot of people nowadays are they're just glued to their phones. They're just glued to their phones. I was at a black belt ceremony, and in the middle of the mat, guy pulls out his phone. I'm like, the coach is talking about giving someone his black belt. Do you know how amazing of a thing that is to see someone get their black belt promotion? And you have someone on their phone while the coach is talking. I'm like, dude, can people not just put the phones down? I don't understand that. People just can't put their phones down. I'll be walking in the mall with a friend of mine like I was a number of days ago. People walking in the mall on their phones, bumping into you, not having any awareness of personal space and stuff like that. Is a complete distraction. It's an absolute distraction. And again, I think that's why a lot of men right now, young men of any age, why I feel bad for them, because they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have a really hard time finding people who have those traits, like I said, loyalty, honor, brotherhood, which is unfortunately scarce. And the thing too is, guys, I'm not going to act like this is normal behavior, because it's not. I've had a lot of people talk about how these kind of things have always existed, and sure, you're right. These kind of behaviors and stuff, the selfishness, whatever you want to call it, it's always existed. But the thing is, it was not nearly a majority to what it seemingly is right now. Yes, you always had traits like that. You always had people like that. Of course, people have bad days. I understand that. But it wasn't as common of an occurrence. So I'm not going to sit here and act like it was normal. Even in the city I'm in, people talk about the Seattle freeze, saying people are cold, people are not friendly. I've grown up in this city. I've lived here my whole life, and I saw the change. It wasn't always like this. I've talked to people in other parts of the country. They tell me very similar things. Very similar things, guys. It's just to the point where I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be jaded, whatever the right word is. But I'm just very careful of who I allow into my life. And again, I know not to even take stuff super personal anymore. Like even with the guy flaking in the gym, with going to the gym. I don't really take that kind of stuff personal because, again, it's sad to say, but it just doesn't surprise me anymore. I've just seen enough of it. And it's almost like you become desensitized to it, which is really sad. In many ways, being around it, I think, could be toxic because you start to become a part of it. It can potentially corrupt you. Like even not that long ago, I had a friend of mine who was going through some stuff, and I was going to text him, just hope he's doing well. Hope you're doing well. Wish you the best with everything. And I remember I didn't end up texting him, and I was thinking to myself, why would I even question that? Why would I even question going out of my way to make sure he's doing okay with the loss of the grievance towards something? What, I think, I wouldn't get a response, I'd be left on red. Like, what kind of reason would that be? It's sad how far people really fall. Because back then we had peace through simplicity. There wasn't all this crazy extra stuff of, being left on red, this kind of stuff, this kind of fake virtual reality. People just had more respect and decency. That's really what it comes down to. You weren't seen as an outsider or as crazy if you wanted to help people. If you want to do the right thing. If you want to treat people with respect, like I said, going on walks, looking people in the eye and them looking at you like you're crazy. Even I remember I was doing a landscaping job for a woman a number of years ago. But I wanted to stay and just make sure the job was done right. I wanted to make sure the fence was getting painted. I remember I had a friend of mine who was doing the lawnmower and stuff like that. But I wanted to stay and make sure it was done right. And they were almost looking at me. And even the homeowner, as crazy as it sounds, was looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I just want to do the right thing. I just want to make sure it's done right, I don't know about you guys, but I've always, especially when it comes to physical stuff, I worked in a warehouse when I was younger. I worked in a Christmas tree lot. I personally enjoy that kind of work because, again, I've always been kind of into the gym and stuff. To me, it almost feels like a form of exercise. It doesn't really feel like work to me. It's the same way I feel about things like DoorDash and stuff like that, where, I can drive around, I can be on the phone, I can listen to videos, and I can think to myself. I really can just have the freedom to just drive around and think and write stuff down and whatever. It doesn't really feel like work to me. So I enjoy it. But it's crazy how people would think you're weird for that nowadays. People would think you're an outsider for that nowadays. But it's wild, And it's wild too. I see a lot of people who they're so quick to talk up celebrities and influencers and people that they strive to want to emulate, whatever you want to call it. They're so quick to praise those kind of people, but they're the last ones to want to praise the people in their circle, their friends and stuff like that. It's like, dude, uplift the people in your circle. Don't praise this celebrity or person you saw online, whether it's commenting and this and that kind of stuff. Uplift the people around you. Like I really think about this recently. There's been so many times in my life where people who you call bro think you're gonna have memories with, that kind of stuff, and you end up never talking to them again. You talk about even starting a business with them, this kind of stuff, and it never ends up going towards anything. Literally countless times. Talk is cheap, of course, but it's like, I just think of all the times the people you think would have your back oftentimes don't. And to quite frank, I'll be honest, I've even seen the opposite. I used to be very paranoid. I used to be very jaded, if that's the right word, like I mentioned. There's been people, of course, who I thought wouldn't have my back that did. By the way, if you can find those people who have brotherhood, who have honor, who have loyalty, who aren't about the superficial, the material stuff, those are the kind of people you want to keep close. And again, with the title of this video, I see those kind of people becoming harder and harder to find. Which is why I feel so bad for a lot of men looking to make friends nowadays. But anyway, guys, appreciate you viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.